Hello, thank you for joining. My name is Melissa. I'm a population health specialist with the Villages Health. Today we're going to talk about avoiding dehydration. So first we want to know, what is dehydration? What does this term mean? Dehydration occurs when you use or lose more fluid than you take in, and your body doesn't have enough water and other fluids to carry out its normal functions. If you don't replace lost fluids, you will get dehydrated. Some general facts that we know about dehydration. Number one, the most common cause of dehydration in young children is severe diarrhea and vomiting. In older adults, which is categorized by ages 65 and over, they naturally have a lower volume of water in their bodies and may have conditions or take certain medications that increase the risk of dehydration. This means that even some minor illnesses like infections of the lungs or bladder can result in dehydration in the older adult population. Dehydration can also occur in any age group if you don't drink enough water during hot weather, especially if you're exercising vigorously. In most cases, you can reverse mild to moderate dehydration by drinking more fluids, but severe dehydration would require immediate medical attention. Most common symptoms. So usually people say if you're thirsty, then you're becoming dehydrated. So thirst is not always a reliable early indicator of the body's need for water. Many people, specifically the older adult population, don't feel thirsty until they're already dehydrated. It's very important in this instance that you increase your water intake during hot weather or when you're sick. So some of those common symptoms that we see here with adults on the left side are extreme thirst, less frequent urination, dark colored or amber colored urine, unusual fatigue, dizziness, or confusion. So you may have one or multiple of these symptoms that could be an indicator that you are dehydrated. But when do you seek medical attention? If you have had diarrhea for 24 hours or more, if you're unusually irritable or disoriented or much sleepier than normal, or if you're less active than normal for yourself, that could be an indicator that you should seek medical attention to see what's going on. Another one is if you can't keep any fluids down, or if you have bloody or black stool. Any of those there on the right side, you definitely should seek medical attention so they can see what's going on, so it doesn't cause more severe illness. Now, some common causes that we see, it can be just simply because you don't drink enough water. Maybe you're not feeling well, maybe you're sick, or maybe your schedule is busy and you don't really have time to think about drinking water. So that could be a cause. It could also be because you don't have access to safe drinking water. Maybe you're traveling to another country, maybe you're hiking or camping, and you don't have enough of clean, safe water to drink. That could be a common cause for dehydration as well. Some other causes could be diarrhea or vomiting, like we discussed previously. Severe and acute diarrhea, which is diarrhea that's sudden and violent, can cause a tremendous loss of water and electrolytes in a very short period of time. So if you have both diarrhea and vomiting, you lose even more fluids and minerals. Another common cause that we see is fever. In general, the higher your fever, the more dehydrated you become. The problem will worsen, your dehydration could worsen if you have fever with diarrhea and vomiting. Another common cause of dehydration is excessive sweating. You lose water when you sweat, so if you do vigorous activity and don't replace those fluids as you go, you can become dehydrated. our hot, humid weather that we have actually increases the amount you sweat and the amount of fluids that you lose. So if you're not replacing what you're losing, you're at a higher risk and you could become dehydrated. And then the fourth common cause of dehydration that we see is increased urination. It could be due to an undiagnosed or uncontrolled diabetes, also from certain medications like diuretics, which are those water pills. Even some blood pressure medications can also lead to dehydration because they make you urinate more. So you're putting out more than you're putting in, which then makes you become dehydrated. We also know there are some certain groups of people that are at a higher risk for becoming dehydrated. So we'll go over those. The first one that you see is our older adult population, 65 and over. So we know as you age, your body's fluid reserve actually becomes smaller. Your ability to conserve water is reduced and your thirst sense becomes less acute. These problems are compounded by some chronic illnesses like diabetes or dementia, and also could be compounded by the use of certain medications like we discussed on the previous slide. Older adults may also have mobility problems that can limit their ability to get the water for themselves. Maybe they're have had some frequent falls and they're not able to walk by themselves. Maybe they're wheelchair bound and they can't get to the kitchen or to be able to get some water for themselves. So they're without for whatever period of time that may be. That puts them at a higher risk. Another group are people with chronic illnesses. So having uncontrolled or untreated diabetes puts you at a high risk of dehydration. Having kidney disease also increases your risk, as well as some medications that increase your urination. So those diuretics and blood pressure medications that we talked about. Even having a cold or a sore throat makes you more susceptible to dehydration because you're less likely to feel like eating or drinking. You know, if you have a cold or you have some type of illness, you're just tired. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to get up. You want to rest. If you have a sore throat, it might hurt your throat to swallow anything liquid or any food. So you simply just don't want to eat or drink. That puts you at a higher risk for becoming dehydrated as well. The third category of people who are at a higher risk are people who work or exercise outside. So we know when it's hot and humid, your risk of dehydration and heat illnesses increase. That's because when the air is humid, your sweat can't evaporate and cool you off as quickly as it normally would. And this can then lead to an increase in your body's temperature and the need for more fluids. So if you're sweating excessively and you're not drinking enough fluids to replace what you're losing, you're at a very high risk for becoming dehydrated. So it's very important to be aware if you're in any of these categories or multiple, making sure you're aware and staying hydrated. Make sure you're drinking plenty of fluid. All right, so we know the people that are at a higher risk, we know what can cause it. Now we're going to talk about some of the complications if you do become dehydrated. Dehydration can actually lead to very serious complications. So the first one here is heat injury. If you don't drink enough fluids when you're exercising vigorously and perspiring heavily, you may end up with a heat injury, which can range from mild in severity like heat cramps, or to heat exhaustion, or even to the potentially life-threatening heat illness of heat stroke. Now, if you want some more information on this, stay tuned to our Learning Center calendar. We do have a seminar that talks about heat-related illnesses, and it goes into these three more in depth, gives you more details about the symptoms and treatment. So stay tuned if you are interested in that. The second possible complication of dehydration is urinary and kidney problems. We know that prolonged or repeated bouts of dehydration can cause urinary tract infections, kidney stones, and even kidney failure. So if you've had dehydration, if you've been dehydrated in the past, you should be aware of the symptoms of it, what it felt like. So Make sure that you don't have repeated bouts of it because that can cause long-term issues. The third complication you see here are seizures. Now, some electrolytes like potassium and sodium help carry electrical signals from cell to cell in our body. And if your electrolytes are out of balance, the normal electrical messages can become mixed up, which can then lead to involuntary muscle contractions, which are seizures, and even sometimes cause a loss of consciousness. So you can see I'm starting at heat injury, then urinary and kidney problems, now we're at seizures. There's some very serious complications that can happen. So the last one that we have on the list here is low blood volume shock, or also called hypovolemic shock. This is actually one of the most serious and can sometimes be life-threatening complications of dehydration. It occurs when low blood volume causes a drop in your blood pressure, as well as a drop in the amount of oxygen in your blood. Now we know that our blood and our cells all need oxygen to be able to function properly and to carry out all the duties that it does inside of our body. So if your levels are lower than they should be, that can, like we said, cause serious, even life-threatening complications. So being very aware, again, the awareness is the biggest part. Now, we know prevention is key. So awareness and prevention. To prevent dehydration, drinking plenty of fluids and foods are basically the ways that you can help prevent this. So most people know that water is the one thing that's going to keep you from getting dehydrated, but a lot of people don't know that there are lots of foods that we eat, like fresh fruits and veggies, that are very high in water content. So we're going to go over a few of those in just a second. For most healthy people, letting thirst be your guide is adequate to be able to determine your daily need for the amount of water that your body needs. Now keep in mind, we said for most healthy people. So if you have those chronic illnesses that we talked about in a few slides ago, like the diabetes, prediabetes, that puts you at a higher risk. So if you do become thirsty, you may already be dehydrated. So the question that we have been asked, how much water does my body actually need? There have been lots of studies that have produced different recommendations over the years, but your individual water needs actually depend on a lot of different factors, like your overall health, how active you are, and where you live. There's not one single formula that fits every single human being, but knowing more about your body's needs for fluid will help estimate how much water you need to drink every single day. So based on the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, this is based on the average healthy adult living in a temperate climate. So the daily fluid intake is about 15.5 cups or 3.7 liters of fluid for men, or 11.5 cups or 2.7 liters for women. Now keep in mind, this is just a guideline. This is not for every single person. This is a guideline for an average healthy adult in that temperate climate. Now these recommendations do cover fluids from water, other beverages, and foods, which we'll go over in just a second. And little FYI, about 20% of your daily fluid intake comes from the foods that we eat. And then the rest comes from the fluids and the drinks that we drink. So this is a test that we can all do on ourselves. This is called the Skin Turgor, T-U-R-G-O-R, or skin tinting test. This can tell you if you're dehydrated. I would not suggest doing this, just walking up and doing this on a stranger, because they might not be aware of what you're doing. You can do this on yourself. You can see in the picture on the left, you're using both of your hands. So with one hand, grab the skin on your other hand and pinch it lightly and like you're pulling it up. You're trying to make a tent with your skin. If the skin remains elevated, then you could possibly be dehydrated. If your skin pops back down to its normal level, then you may not be dehydrated. If you are to the point, though, where you feel the need to do a skin turgor test, then you may be thinking that you are dehydrated and you're not drinking enough fluid. So if you think you need to do this test, you might want to just go ahead and start putting some more fluid into your body. Just an idea, but you don't, like I said, you don't want to walk up to someone and say, hey, you look like you're dehydrated, and pinch their hand. Not a good idea. Do it on yourself, and you can show others if needed. So we talked about how some foods that we eat are good to help with dehydration. The following foods that we're going to go over are very heavy on the water content according to the USDA, their nutrient database. And in several cases, they're also full of other nutrients that will help you fight diseases. So we'll go over those, a few of them. And if you're like me, there may be a few that are going to surprise you. I had no idea that some of these were so high in the water count. So we'll see what surprises you. The first one is a cucumber. So cucumbers hydrate and replenish your skin, and they actually contain 95% water. Cucumbers are rich in anti-inflammatory compounds that help remove waste from the body and also to reduce skin irritation. Now you'll notice some of these foods that we're going to talk about in the next few slides. If you want to try maybe slicing them up, putting them in your water, that'll give you a different taste. Maybe you're tired of water because some people say they just don't like the way water tastes. Okay, well, we've got some options for you in the next 4 or 5 slides. You can add some of these different fruits and veggies and give you different flavorings while you're still getting the water that your body needs. So maybe some fresh cucumbers sliced up into your water gives you a fresh, summery taste. The next one is celery. So if you are a crunch snacker, maybe you like crunchy foods like chips and crackers and things like that, cucumber is a really good alternative. It's not only healthier than those other snacks, but celery is at 95% water by weight. Celery is also very low in calories, and it has a high value in vitamin K, folate, and potassium. So celery is an excellent alternative to chips and crackers, but it's also very high in water. So a good option to help with fighting dehydration. You can add it to a salad, or if you just want to eat it as a snack, it's a good on-the-go snack. Good option. The next one is lettuce. So you can see the first word in iceberg lettuce is ice. So that should pretty much give you the clue that it's really high in water content. There are some other options for you with lettuce. We'll talk about, you can see here in the picture, spinach, but iceberg lettuce contains 95% water as well. So the ice pretty much gave it away because ice melted its water. It's a good base for a summer salad. You can use that for your base, add some cucumbers, add some celery. You can have a hydrating summer salad for you there with all these things we're going to talk about, all different flavors and textures. But the spinach here, if you want the heart-healthy benefits of that, it's a very good alternative, and it's at 91% water by weight. So if you really want to splurge, you can get a nice mixture of iceberg lettuce and spinach, have a good green mix, cucumbers, celery, fruits, veggies, good alternative, still healthy. Next on the list is zucchini. So watch for fresh in-season zucchini during the summer. So we're coming up on its peak season. Now zucchini is actually at 95% as well. It's almost 95. It's like 94 point something. So we're going to round up. Zucchini is an excellent alternative for hydrating your body with a food. You might want to try this in water. It's a good option. I've never tried it myself, but if one of you want to be a taste tester, you can slice some up, put it in some water, and then let us know how it tastes. We might add your recipe, who knows. All right, so this one, I knew it was going to be on the list. So watermelon, because water is in its name, so I pretty much guessed it would be somewhere here. Watermelon flesh contains 91% water. So these foods are all in the 90s. Excellent numbers. Watermelon also contains a lot of lycopene, which can help protect your cells from sun damage and also help improve your complexion. Now, there's a lot of different options on how you can eat watermelon. There's a lot of roadside stands right now that are selling watermelon. So you can slice it up and eat it just like it is. You can put some of the slices in the freezer, have a nice cooling snack when you come in from working outside. It'll give you the cooling agent to help cool your body and also the watermelon to help hydrate it. You can also cube up some watermelon, put it in your infused water bottle, have some nice flavored water, or chop it up and put it in a salad. Again, all of these things that we've talked about, they would go great together in with water or just separate by itself as a snack. You have lots of different options and different ways that you can eat these foods. Strawberries are next on the list. Just a fun fact, generally Florida strawberries are ripe and ready for picking between the months of December and March, and sometimes the season even stretches into April. Now, I do know most of the grocery stores here around this area, they usually have strawberries throughout the entire year, but the peak seasons are here listed between December and March to April. So strawberries, again, you can add them to your water, to your salad, or just eat them by themselves. They are at 91% water content. Excellent, excellent numbers, all in the 90s. Okay, so this is the one that surprised me the most. It's cauliflower. I had absolutely no idea that this would be on the list, and it's at 92% water by weight. I would have never guessed. So that's a really good number. It's 92. It's still in the 90s. It's also rich in vitamin C, vitamin K, and a few other key essentials that our body needs. So again, something that you can eat by itself. You can put in a salad, a lot of different ways and options on how to eat these foods. So you have a good variety and a few examples of foods that you can eat that will help with your hydration and possibly avoid dehydration. So it's not just water. Remember, it's also the foods that we eat. If there's a snack or a fruit or veggie that you like to snack on all the time, you can Google that. Just Google water by weight percentage for whatever it is that you're looking for, and it'll tell you the number. So this next slide, I know in the area here we have a lot of golfers. I don't know how many golf courses we have in this area, but I know there's quite a bit. There's also multiple lists of other sports that are played here. I know pickleball is pretty common as well. So looking at golfers right now, if you do enjoy golfing, you want to make sure you drink water before, during, and after a round of golf. So for example here, consider drinking 2 cups of water an hour before your tee time, then a total of 1.5 liters of water should be drank during the round. So 2 cups before, an hour before, and then while you're golfing, during the entire golfing round, a total of 1.5 liters. So that's approximately 3 ounces per hole. So just as an example, I wouldn't suggest chugging all of the water at the beginning, at the end. You want to spread it out to make sure your body's staying hydrated, because you are going to be sweating. As you can see in the pictures here below, you have you're getting ready to hit the ball, then you have the sun beating down on you, and if you don't drink water, you end up like this poor little fella here down on the bottom right. You can see he is just completely beat. He is exhausted. The sun's beating down on him. His tongue's out. He's thirsty. You don't want to end up like him. So if you're outside doing work or sports or any of that sort, make sure you're staying hydrated. Make sure you have water. Make sure if you want to there's a lot of apps on the phones now you can get to remind you. If you want to say every hour on the hour, I'm going to drink so much water, whatever works for you, but making sure you're staying hydrated. If you're in one of those higher risk groups, Or if you work outside or exercise outside, just make sure you're staying hydrated. If you have any questions, I do urge you to contact the Village's Health Learning Center. We will be happy to answer any questions that you have about dehydration. I hope you've enjoyed the seminar, and I hope you've gotten some useful information from it so you can hopefully avoid dehydration in the future. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.